Ladies and gentlemen, children of the interwebs out there, Sebastian Envy, Strong Styles, Cinephile. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Saw it on Sunday. I know it's a couple days late. Let's geek about it still for a scant few minutes. Now, it opened to a little over $180 million. So, it's safe to say that the bulk of you out there are going to go see it. So, this recap of it is not necessary to sway you one way or another. Not that my videos ever are. I just like to share my thoughts on things. But, suffice to say, it's a good movie. Is it flawless? No. But my thing about it, it was not without its predictability. And I said in some videos a while back that while I expected them to go which way they were going to go, which is Shuri taking up the mantle, that I felt that this movie was going to be her crucible to make it feel like she earned it, because Shuri, the Shuri that we had seen in Black Panther and briefly in the Infinity War, and then she shows up blasting a couple people in Endgame. That's about it. But that Shuri was not fit to take up the mantle at that point in time. Now, we know she does in the comics. We know things in the MCU were done a little bit differently. They take elements, nuggets from the comics, and just kind of twist things to suit the adaptation, because you can't do things 100% from the comic to the screen. So I felt that she was going to have to go through some things, and she did go through some things in this movie. And by the end of it, it feels earned. It feels at a place where she can conceivably be the next Black Panther. And it felt like I said, this movie was kind of predictable. You kind of see where it was going to go plot-wise, even. Had some issues with some elements of it and some of the world-building necessity of MCU movies, because we take the good with the bad, and sometimes the world-building that they lean on is kind of detrimental to the overall film, because you have Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character, Fontaine. We know she's a shady person. We know she's going to be doing unleashing the Thunderbolts at some point in time, which we'll get to a Thunderbolts kind of talk back on what we know thus far in another video. But her interactions with Everett Ross in this movie, what Everett Ross brings to the movie, again, world building, showing us this larger MCU world. Now, if you took both of them out of the movie and kind of changed up some of the ways that the Wakandans got their information, it wouldn't have changed anything. So it's like, what was the point of having them in there? I mean, I understand because world building, but we didn't need them. The fact that you could take them out and it would have zero effect on the movie kind of shows you their importance and necessity for the movie. So that was kind of like my only real just thing that I'm scratching my head about. The story was kind of predictable. My thing in watching it, the thing that kind of stuck with me was going to be, number one, how they're going to take T'Challa off the board, which we see in opening moments of the movie that he's suffering from some unknown illness that caught him off guard. They can't do anything. Shuri's trying her best efforts to artificially create the heart-shaped herb because Killmonger burned it down in the last movie. So I like that they built off of that, and we have like an actual tangible reason why they couldn't bring it back, because the means that they had to bring it back was gone. So, and thus T'Challa is gone. Again, some of the music and just the spectacle and the majesty of the funeral processions and just Wakanda in general was on point. It was great, loved it, and just some of the performances of Letitia Wright as Shuri, Angela Bassett, my God, like her run as Ramonda in this is phenomenal. It's like Coogler told her before they started shooting, like, bring your Oscar A game to this, and that's what she did, because she was great in every single scene that she was in. The only bad part about Angela Bassett as Queen Ramonda in these movies, as an African, nation queen, is the robbery that Angela Bassett was not cast as Storm over Halle Berry in the Fox X-Men movies. Like, Angela Bassett would have killed, I said it then, years ago, that she would have killed it. Even now, today, she would still kill it, because Storm just demands a certain level of reverence and carries herself with a certain air of confidence and control and leadership and power and strength. And Angela Bassett just embodies it as Queen Ramonda. Like, she could take her exact performance as the Queen, translate it to Storm, and it would be perfect. But that's not what we get. So it is what it is. But seeing her in this was great. Seeing some of the other characters, Okoye, Nakia, M'Baku, how they respond to the death of T'Challa. It was great to kind of see the grief and drama play out on screen. And I think, I kind of wonder, kind of suspect that it was, when the actors were shooting this movie, that they were using it to kind of help them deal with their grief over the passing of Chadwick Boseman. So it was interesting in that regard. Riri Williams introduced into this. Riri Williams from the comics is Ironheart. She built a suit of armor, kind of Iron Man-esque, because she's kind of inspired by Iron Man in the comics. And in this movie, they go to the same place, MIT or whatever, but there's no real connection to Iron Man other than that. And for her to build her suit, she brings the levity to the film, the fresh eyes to Wakanda, and kind of exposed to their technology and their ways and their capabilities, stuff like that. She was a welcome addition. The humor in this wasn't over the top, which it was a far cry from what Love and Thunder was, or the last few Marvel movies. There was quips here and there. Riri brought some. M'Baku had some great one-liners, but it was nothing over the top that would detract from the overall kind of mood and feel of loss in the film. So it was in there because it's an MCU staple, but it wasn't too much. So I appreciated that. Riri had some good scenes in this, and of course we know she's going to go to her own 6-episode series of Ironheart on Disney Plus, where she's going to be encountering the Hood, which is going to be interesting. Kind of see Ironheart against the Hood, kind of see what their connection is, what kind of puts them against each other. I've been waiting to see that. But all in all, she was a good addition. I was kind of worried how they were going to work her into the film. She ends up being pretty crucial to the plot. She is a crucial reason as to why Namor comes into it. So pretty important and handled pretty well, I think. Seeing Namor, I know like his execution in this was kind of knocked here and there because of some of the changes that they were made, because we know Namor from the comics is from the city of Atlantis. But DC already put out an Aquaman movie, and you know what? There was Atlantis in there. So for Marvel to just try it out like another Atlantis, people will be saying, oh, they copied off of DC. So I applaud them for doing something different and kind of bringing those sort of Aztec elements into the character of Namor to kind of give him a different city, a different race of fish people, and just do some things a little bit different. He was still, he wasn't as arrogant as he is in the comics, I don't think, but he still had that air of arrogance and self-assuredness and confidence, and just the fact that, you know, the thought that people were going to bow to his whims and what he wanted, and ultimately he was just trying to preserve and protect his people, and it just brought him into conflict with Wakanda. He says it in one of the promos. He has to know if Wakanda is going to be an ally or an enemy, and that's pretty much the thing. He's trying to get them to be on his side and go to war against the surface world and do things kind of his way, which Shuri and Wakanda are not exactly down with, which brings them to clash, which you get your, you know, obvious third act climax CGI stuff playing out on screen. It wasn't too terrible. Some of the stuff was corny, like we see the Midnight Angels with Okoye and one of the other Dora Milaje getting like suits that they battle in, which is kind of like, I know they're from the comics, but just seeing them in execution was kind of like corny, because they're basically kind of like Iron Man suits, and I'm just like, oh, everybody's getting an Iron Man suit. It just, the way it plays out is just kind of corny. It kind of takes away from things. That was kind of like my only issue with it. Again, it wasn't too unsightly as far as the CGI third act stuff. It wasn't too bad. Wasn't the best. Wasn't too bad. They pretty much kind of how they staged the shots and the how things played out in the scene was pretty organized. You didn't lose sight of what was going on. But again, it's a CGI fest, which is an MCU staple. It's what happens. You gotta live with it. And then you have the final conflict with Namor and Shuri. And again, like, Shuri is mad over her losing her brother. She kind of rejects the old ways, the ancestral ways, and she has revenge on her mind when she confronts Namor. Again, you can kind of predict how things go when you have a character in a movie who wants revenge, who seeks revenge for a loved one, and encounters the person that took them from them, and kind of what happens and how it plays out. Again, not trying to spoil it, but you've seen this story before, so you know how it's going to play out. There was a cameo in the movie, which I did not see coming. It came out of left field, and I enjoyed it. I loved it. I like being genuinely surprised by stuff going on in these movies, because again, like I said, the plot beats were kind of predictable. But so getting surprised genuinely by stuff is awesome at this point with these movies. All in all, it was a good movie. It was a sad movie. I caught myself, like, you know, some manly mist was getting in my eyes here and there with some of the visuals and shots of Chadwick Boseman. But all in all, it was just a good, solid film, I think. I'd give it like a good 7.5 out of 10. It wasn't perfect, but it was good. It was entertaining. I'll find myself going back to watch it. I enjoyed it. Okoye's battle with Atuma on a bridge. There's no music behind it. It was just two warriors going at it. I loved how that played out. Their second fight wasn't as good as the first one, but it was okay. So there was a lot to like about this movie. Again, it was a weighty sort of thing because you had the air, the specter of Chadwick Boseman kind of hanging over it. You were kind of wondering how Coogler was going to take his loss and apply it to the characters, to Wakanda. And I think he did a pretty good job, all things considered, under the circumstances. These are kind of we've had actors pass away while filming movies, but I don't know if we've had one pass away right before a sequel was about to start filming with them, and then they have to change everything about the sequel because you no longer have them. I don't think we've waded into those waters before, so I think it was a strong, difficult challenge by, I think, Coogler. The cast, I think they handled it very, very well. Wakanda Forever is a great film. Kind of set us up for some nuggets of ways that they can go as far as Wakanda, who's ruling Wakanda, Shuri's next steps, Nakia and her next steps. Again, not trying to spoil it, but again, it's like $180 million. I think a lot of you out there are gonna go see it anyway, so I think you should. It's a good movie. I enjoyed it. I'll see it again. But anyway, those are some of my thoughts on it. Scatter as they often are. What do you guys out there think? Let me know in the comments below. Follow me social media. Talk to me there. Talk to me here. Until next time, let us geek.